Space, the final frontier, the boldly go where no man has ever gone before. Hi there, Matt Cleathermos here, and I am going to review Star Trek V. That's right, Star Trek V. Star Trek V came out in 1989. It has a runtime of approximately, excuse me for a moment, 106 minutes. That's an hour and 56 minutes total. In 1989, Star Trek V came out, and it got really ripped on by some fans, and mostly by film critics, not so much fans. They said that it didn't have very good continuity, it didn't have a good storyline, they found it kind of hard to follow, they didn't like the fact that Spock had a stepbrother. I kind of gave that away. This does contain spoilers. But Star Trek V, to me, is a really great sequel. I would say that it's my second favorite Star Trek sequel, along with Star Trek II. Well, as far as Star Trek movies go, my favorite is Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan. After that one, it's Star Trek V. I love Star Trek V. This is the plot of Star Trek V. It says, a renegade Vulcan with a startling secret hijacks the USS Enterprise in order to find a mythical planet. Kirk and his crew set out to stop a madman in an adventure that takes him to the center of the universe and perhaps before the face of God. With crew under Vulcan control, the captain must rely on an unlikely alliance to save the galaxy. And anyway, Star Trek V came out in 1989. It came out the same year that Batman and Ghostbusters 2 came out. So, along with Batman and Ghostbusters 2, Star Trek V came out. So, what happened is, and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade also came out. What happens is, all of these movies came out during the summer, around the same time. Star Trek V, Batman, Ghostbusters 2, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Wow, that's a good summer, you know, that's a good summer of really great movies. But Batman and Ghostbusters 2 beat out the competition. You know, in which these are both great movies. This is a great sequel, this is a great movie. That's a great movie based on a great comic book. But thing is, Star Trek, I think at that time there was an overabundance of sequels. Also during that time, Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, also came out. So Friday the 13th Part 8, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Ghostbusters 2, and Batman all came out along with Star Trek V. There was kind of an overabundance of sequels there. All of them good sequels, don't get me wrong. And there was, you know, this great big comic book movie that everybody really wanted to see. That would be Batman. And there were some people that didn't want to see Star Trek, or maybe were burnt out on it. I don't know, maybe the fans weren't ready for it, I don't know. But this movie, I really like it. I really do think it is an underrated movie. Definitely an underrated sequel. It does get ripped on by a few fans, even more so by film critics. I don't know what this film critic specifically said about it, but they basically their problem with it, they didn't like the fact that Spock had a stepbrother, and they didn't like it because the whole God concept. There are some people that just didn't care for that. I like that idea. It's kind of a nihilistic type of Star Trek. Now, I don't know, and I don't think this was intended, but it's almost kind of anti-Christian in a way. And I'm not saying that it is. I'm saying it kind of is, because this godlike being appears before Kirk and Spock and Bones McCoy and Spock's stepbrother. And it wants the Enterprise. It demands the Enterprise. And Kirk tells it, what do you want with an Enterprise? He questions God, if it is God, which I like to think it is God. God is basically an asshole. He basically is in Star Trek V. And I think there's some people that are Star Trek fans that are Christian that might have found that kind of offensive. And I'm not saying that might be, but I'm just saying theoretically that's my idea on it. And you know, I don't know why there's so many Star Trek fans that hate Star Trek 5 as a film. I don't know why there's so many film critics that hate Star Trek 5. Really, it's a pretty solid movie, and it's a really good sequel. It's very entertaining. Some of my favorite parts are actually the parts that are more the mundane parts, where Kirk and Spock and Bones McCoy are around the campfire and telling stories and singing campfire songs. It's really very funny, very classic moment. But you know, Star Trek 5 is really a really good Star Trek movie, a really good entry in the film series. I would say Star Trek 5 is 10 times better than the Star Trek Next Generation movie Insurrection. So Star Trek 5 beats the shit out of Star Trek Insurrection. And I would say the weakest Star Trek film in the whole series out of the bunch, there's 12 movies together, I would say would be Star Trek Insurrection and Star Trek Into the Darkness. I said that wrong. Star Trek Insurrection and Star Trek Into the Darkness, I would say that those are the weakest entries in the whole film series, but I really like Star Trek 5. I really do think Star Trek 5 is a good movie, and I really don't know what to say too much about it, but I like the action sequences and the storyline and the character development and the suspenseful story angle of finding out about Spock's having a stepbrother and the whole questioning God type thing, you know, the God concept or whatever. I really like that. And like I said, it's a very nihilistic type of Star Trek. And it's like, I guess there were some people that didn't care for the whole nihilistic approach, but it has that nihilistic approach. Is there a God, and does he exist? The questioning of God. All that stuff. There's some people that are just turned off by that, and I think that's why they didn't like Star Trek 5. I really like Star Trek 5. It almost questions the whole theology of the Christian concept in that. And like I said, maybe that wasn't the intentions of the movie. There's some atheists that view Star Trek 5 that love Star Trek 5, and there's some people that are not Christian that love. It seems like a lot of the people that are fans of Star Trek 5 are the people that are not the most Christian people, or not the most religious types of people. But then again, what do I know? You know, this is just based on my own experiences. But Star Trek 5 is really good. Check it out. This review for Star Trek 5.